from sin, and then it's part of the Old Covenant, all of those disappear. Because if we can prove that the Sabbath was made for man at the very beginning, before sin, before there were Jews, and before there was an Old Covenant, it's part of God's original plan. That's the first point. The second point is that the first 6 days and the 7th day of creation week are really all about what God did. The center of the creation story is not man, it is God. 31 times in Genesis chapter 1, the word God is used. I think that's a lot of times to use the word God in one chapter. God said, God saw, God made, God sent, God blessed, God sanctified. Genesis chapter 1 is all about God, not about man. Also, the 7th day is also about God, all about God, and not about man. The first week, in other words, is all about God. In fact, 10 times in Genesis 2, verses 2 and 3, it is underlined that the first 6 days and the 7th day are about God and not about man. Let's read Genesis 2, verses 2 and 3, 2 verses, to see if we can find 10 times that it tells us that God was the one who worked 6 and God was the one who rested the 7th. Let's read verses 2 and 3. And on the 7th day, God, that's number 1, ended His work, number 2, which He had done, number 3. And He rested on the 7th day from all His work, number 5, that He had done, number 6. Then God, number 7, blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it He, number 8, rested from all His, number 9, work, which God had created and made, number 10. Who are the first 6 days about? God. Who is the 7th day about? God. The first week is all about God and not about man. So the first premise is, when the Sabbath originates in Genesis, there's no sin, there is no Jew, there is no Old Covenant. Secondly, that first week is all about God. God was the one who worked 6, and God was the one who rested on the 7th. Incidentally, go with me to Psalm 24 and verses 1 and 2, still on this second point. Psalm 24, verses 1 and 2. To whom does everything that was created belong? To God. Why? Why does everything that God created the first 6 days belong to God? Because He created these things. Notice Psalm 24, verses 1 and 2. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Now comes the reason. For He founded it upon the seas and established it upon the waters. To whom does the light belong? God. To God. To whom does the firmament belong? God. God. To whom does the vegetation belong? God. God. To whom do the sun, moon, and stars belong? God. God. To whom do the birds and fish belong? God. God. To whom do the land beasts belong? God. To God. To whom do human beings belong? God. To God. But the Sabbath belongs to the Jews. Are you seeing the contradiction? Yes. Who made the Sabbath? God. That's why in the Bible it's always called the Sabbath of the Lord your God. That's why God says, sanctify my Sabbaths. That's why God says, take away your foot from my holy day, because it's His before it is ours. Yes. Are you with me? Yes. Doesn't make any sense to say, Everything is God's except the Sabbath. The Sabbath is of the Jews. When God made the Sabbath, there was no Jew. By the way, you might say, well, did God make the Sabbath? Yes, Jesus said the Sabbath was made for man. It's part of the thing that God made. Now let's go to the third premise, or the third preliminary point. And this probably is going to surprise some people here. There's going to be lots of surprises tonight. There's a lot of things that even us Adventists have not discovered as we study these doctrines. You know, we're not going to contradict the doctrine of the Sabbath. We're going to learn some new things about the Sabbath. The third premise, or preliminary point, is that the Sabbath did not become holy until it ended. Now listen carefully. The Sabbath did not become holy. It was not a holy day until that first Sabbath ended. You know, during all of my ministry, and I see some eyeballs going, Pastor Bohr is going to teach us some heresy tonight. Everything I say is documented in the Spirit of the Bible. If it's not documented there, I'll tell you this is my opinion. But what I'm sharing with you, we're going to see, is not my opinion. It's taught in the Bible, and it is sustained by the Spirit of prophecy. And you're going to see that this is a very important point. See, for many years in my ministry, I thought that God created everything in 6 days, and then as the seventh day was beginning, God told Adam and Eve, now this day is holy, keep it. But then, several years later, as I studied, I said, now wait a minute. The Sabbath did not become holy until the Sabbath ended. Until God had rested all 24 hours. When God rested all 24 hours, then the Sabbath was holy. Now you say, where does the Bible teach that? Let's go to Genesis chapter 2 and verse 3. By the way, these preliminary points are vital for understanding everything that we're going to study, so I hope that you're following me. Notice Genesis chapter 2 and verse 3. Let's read it carefully. I've read this dozens of times, but I never really understood this key point. It says, then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it. Why did God bless and sanctify the seventh day? Because in it He rested. Are you catching the point? Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it because in it He rested. So what is it that makes the Sabbath holy? God's rest. So it continues saying, because He rested from all His work, which God had created and made. Let's notice a second verse. Exodus 20, verse 11. Exodus chapter 20 and verse 11. I read this verse probably hundreds of times, but maybe not as carefully as I should have. For in 6 days, the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day therefore. Are you catching the point? He rested the seventh day, therefore, because He rested on the seventh day, therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Are you with me? So when did that first Sabbath become holy?
When He rested.
When it ended, it became holy. Because God rested the entire day. Every second that God rested became a holy second. Every minute that God rested became a holy minute. Every hour that God rested became a holy hour. And when God had rested 24 hours, the entire day was holy. I'm going to share some quotations from Ellen White later on. The little lady understood this. And I read those quotations bunches of times, but maybe not as carefully as I should have. So the first point, the first preliminary point is what? That when God established the Sabbath, there was no sin, no Jew, no Old Covenant. Number 2, the creation story, the 7 weeks of creation, 7 days of creation, are centered in whom? They're centered in God. God worked 6, God rested the 7th. Number 3, the Sabbath becomes holy when it what? When it ended. The fourth preliminary point is that after God worked 6 and rested the 7th, He had finished creating the week. And then He gives the week to man. Let me give you the sequence. God worked 6 days. He ceased on the 7th day. When the 7th day ended, God blessed and sanctified the 7th day. So now the week is complete, right? When God blesses and sanctifies the Sabbath, when it ends,